Money you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition.
I do.
Please state your name and spell your last for the court record.
Dale Piper, P-I-P-E-R.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Good afternoon, Mr. Piper.
Good afternoon.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a program director at Achieve. I've worked there for the last 7 years.
Can you tell the court what Achieve is?
Achieve is a community of volunteers that help people who are left behind get ahead. We're all about hope and change. Basically, Barack Obama in 2008, but for nonprofit.
Are you familiar with Ray Culture?
Of course. She's been a regular volunteer at Achieve for the past year.
What are Ray's duties as a volunteer?
She answers phones, moves boxes, sorts through donations, and works as a peer counselor.
What does a peer counselor have to do?
A good peer counselor sits down with kids their own age and talks about such issues as drug abuse and family issues. To be a good peer counselor, you have to confide, connect, and create.
Now, could you tell us how Ray performed as a peer counselor?
She's one of the best I've ever seen. A kind and considerate young woman. She's made a trip out to Diamond Heights each and every week.
Now, where is Diamond Heights in relation to Rosewood?
It's next town over. A good half-hour drive with no traffic at all.
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Counsel.
Your Honor, this is simply going to show that the distance between Diamond Heights and Rosewood was short enough that Ray Concha would be in the town at Achieve to purchase these Ziploc baggies.
Counsel.
Your Honor, the distance between Rosewood and Diamond Heights is irrelevant to this case.
Objection.
Now, at Achieve, do you use Ziploc baggies?
We sure do. Every 15th of the month we have a takeout day where we use plastic baggies.
Do you remember running low on Ziploc baggies in February or March?
I think it was around February running low. And I announced it out loud at Achieve, and I'm sure someone heard me. I think Ray did.
Now, what, if anything, happened after you announced that you were running low on baggies, Mr. Piper?
Shortly after, someone brought in the baggies and we were replenished.
Mr. Piper, have you ever seen Ray Concha in possession of any drugs?
No.
Have you ever heard Ray mention having drugs?
No, never.
Have you ever heard Ray suggest to anybody at your organization that they ought to take drugs?
Definitely not. It's always been the polar opposite of that.
Sir, are you testifying today on Ray Concha's behalf?
No, I'm a fan of Ray's, but I'm here because of a subpoena.
Will you tell the court anything but the truth in order to keep Ray from going to jail?
Of course not. Lying in court flies in the face of everything Achieve stands for.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Question examination.
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed? Oh, wait, excuse me. Before I proceed, I request a time check.
The prosecution has 1 minute and 37 seconds remaining.
May I proceed? Mr. Piper, you've been a program director at Achieve for 7 years, correct?
Good afternoon. Yes, I have.
And, okay, isn't it true that you only met the defendant last year?
This is true.
And the defendant only comes into Achieve to volunteer a few hours a week, correct?
Well, normally most kids come for their school.
Objection, Your Honor, non-responsive. The question calls for a yes or no answer.
Can you answer yes or no?
Yes.
So you haven't spent personally a very large amount of time with the defendant, have you?
No.
Now, Achieve holds a takeout day every month during which personal items and snacks are given out in baggies, correct?
Yes, it's very successful.
And didn't you run low on baggies during a takeout day in February?
Yeah, around that time.
And you mentioned out loud that you needed more baggies, correct?
Yes, I'm sure Ray heard me.
But you didn't tell the defendant personally to get baggies for the takeout day, did you?
No.
And you don't remember the defendant specifically bringing the baggies to Achieve, do you?
No.
So you just assumed that the defendant would bring baggies to the program because you happened to mention it?
Ray's that kind of
1
person.
minute.
The defendant helped out a lot at the center, didn't she?
She sure did.
And in fact, the defendant was a so-called peer counselor for Achieve, wasn't she?
She was a peer counselor.
And you trained the defendant personally in peer counseling, didn't you?
I trained all my peer counselors personally.
The defendant specifically?
Yes, she's one of the peer counselors.
And these peer counselors are educated on drug and alcohol abuse, aren't they?
Yes.
So it would be a problem if a personally trained peer counselor was arrested for
30
drug
seconds,
abuse,
wouldn't
wouldn't
It might be a slight problem, yes.
it? It would be a
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. No further questions.
The director.
Now, Your Honor. Excuse.
Now, just in the interest of time, what I would.
Only be characterized as a willful disregard for human life. As Jason took the stage for practice, trembling and in excruciating pain, he collapsed and slipped from consciousness. Inspired by this tragedy, Alex Weaver came forward and illuminated the source from which the school's prevalent drug culture stemmed, the drug dealing defendant. Alex wanted to prevent Ray Concha from harming any more of the students at Rosewood. Based on the collective evidence, including Alex Weaver's report, Officer Doherty searched Miss Concha's car, finding the devices for Jason's murder. Miss Concha was subsequently arrested and charged with possession with the intent to sell Adderall and second-degree murder. The prosecution has demonstrated beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty of both second-degree murder and of possession with the intent to sell a controlled substance. California state law defines second-degree murder as the unlawful killing of another human being with malice aforethought. To prove this charge, the prosecution